right, thank you very much. So welcome to the September, did I just say September?
You did.
Wow, I just want to fast forward a few months here. I have no idea where that came from. The February 21st, 2022 CRTPA Board Meeting. Welcome, everyone. Mr. Slay, is there any opening comments, or we'll just go straight to call?
Go straight to call to order and roll call.
Okay. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Commissioner Wood? Commissioner Barfield? Right here. Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Messersmith?
Here.
Commissioner Villabisier? Commissioner Dozier?
Here.
Commissioner Maddox? Commissioner Minor?
Here.
Commissioner Matlow?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Williams-Cox?
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. Any agenda modifications, Greg?
Yes, ma'am. We actually will be pulling the first bulleted item under 6A, the Thomasville Road design project, and I'll provide you all a brief explanation when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other modifications from the board? Anything pulled off consent? Hearing none. Do we have public comments on items not appearing on the agenda?
I don't think we have any public speakers. I don't have any slips.
Okay. We were very used to a big crowd at our last meeting, so for the couple of people here, you all know if you want to speak, fill out a card. We'll just say it for the record as always. So with that, we're moving straight on to consent. Do you have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Barfield, second from Commissioner Richardson, Mayor Pro Tem, correct? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And moving on to 6A.
Yes, ma'am. Just real briefly, we had received an updated cost estimate on the design phase late this morning. The reason for the update was some of the items that were in the feasibility study. Based on the estimate now, it was about $250,000 more than what was in your agenda item, and I've actually got some questions for the department, so I'm just requesting we pull this and bring it back to you all next month when we have better information.
So we are pulling the first item. Do we still?
Yes, ma'am. We still need action on the second two, and Suzanne Lex will give us a brief update on that.
Okay. And just before you get started, Suzanne, we don't need any action on the Thomasville Road piece, but if there's questions,
No, ma'am.
folks could
Yes,
ask you
ma'am.
questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
the plan would be to bring it back to you all next month.
Okay. So we'll move on to Big Bend Transit and McCulloch County Transit.
And Jefferson's included in that, too. Big Bend Transit. It says it later on in the material.
That's a good note. We can never leave out Jefferson.
Absolutely not. No, because you know my red hair will go on fire, right?
I know.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioners. We were contacted by FDOT, and they requested that we add these two tip amendments for transit funds, that the funding came from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. So Big Bend Transit serves Gadsden County and Jefferson County. They will receive $755,216 in operating funding, and McCulloch County Transit would receive $80,233 in capital expenses, and we're requesting approval to amend this into the TIP. Any questions?
Madam Chair, just briefly, this would be a roll call vote since it is a.
Sure. Okay. Commissioner Barfield.
Yes, so I see in the Big Bend Transit operating, it does mention Jefferson County in there. It says counties, Gadsden, Leon, Jefferson counties. I just want to know if we are included in this, because we do have a Big Bend Transit in Jefferson.
Yes, and and again, the FDOT identified the county where they would place this funding.
Okay.
Okay, so Big Bend Transit serves all three counties. I do not believe it's restricted to just Gadsden County. I can inquire about that. But again, it was identified as Gadsden County from FDOT in their work program.
So was it spreading among all of those, or just Gadsden for right now?
I would think it would be among all of them.
Okay.
I will confirm that with the transit agency.
Right.
At FDOT, at their department, and get back to you and let the rest of the board know as well.
Thank you, Ms. Lex.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you. And again, roll call vote, please.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Do we need to take a motion on that? I would move staff recommendation, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Richardson, I'm moving a little too fast. Thank you. Yes, we need a motion before we go to the
That's what
roll
I
call.
thought.
Yes.
We're already in September, so we're good. Point.
I don't think-
Feasibility
I don't think
study's
we can tell anyone in this room what a busy week this is, so shifting gears. We have a motion from Commissioner Richardson and a second, was that Commissioner Williams-Cox? Thank you. And now we are ready for that roll call vote, Yolanda. Thank you.
Commissioner Barfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen, Commissioner Messerschmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vibisier, Commissioner Dozier,
Aye.
Commissioner Minor,
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Aye.
Unanimously passed.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Greg, we're moving on to 7A.
Yes, ma'am. Up next, item 7A is the annual adoption of our safety targets. As is mentioned in the agenda item, these are actually due to FDOT by February 27th. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Burke for a
Okay.
presentation.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. As you may recall, every year the CRTPA is required to adopt safety targets for 5 safety performance measures. Those are number of fatalities, number of serious injuries, their corresponding rates, as well as the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Now, what this actually does is provide an opportunity to assess how the CRTPA region is performing with regards to performance measures, as well as what we are doing with regards to safety. Now, safety is integrated throughout the CRTPA planning process, including safety coordination with our partner agencies. Cannot speak highly enough about that, as you will see. Development of plans and programs and implementation of safety projects. Now, how is the region actually identifying safety issues and addressing these concerns? One way, believe it or not, is through something as common as resurfacings. What those do is actually allow the CRTPA to coordinate with local governments as well as the FDOT to ensure that associated with upcoming resurfacings are actually the implementation of pedestrian safety measures along with those resurfacings. So what you see there are actually 3 upcoming resurfacings in Leon, Gadsden, and Jefferson County that all have incorporated or will incorporate some pedestrian safety access associated with those resurfacings. Corridor safety evaluations. Now, those allow us to address identified safety issues on the region's corridors. Examples include Monroe Street and Magnolia Drive. Currently, an FDOT District 3 safety study that is looking at these identified high crash corridors for bikes and pedestrians. Pensacola Street safety improvements. Now, those are actually scheduled to be implemented in fiscal year 26 to address pedestrian safety along Pensacola corridor. Thomasville Road, Midtown area. Last year in 2021, 3 rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RRFBs for those of you that like acronyms, were installed along the Midtown area, including the addition of a missing sidewalk, a missing crosswalk at 5 points. Tennessee Street pedestrian safety. FDOT is actually doing an analysis right now, and some of you may remember tragically in December of 2020, there was an FSU student that was killed along that corridor, and based upon conversations with the university, FDOT, the City of Tallahassee, as well as the CRTPA, there's a study that's going on to actually address pedestrian safety along that corridor. Feasibility studies. Now, those actually provide a first step in corridor-wide improvements, and those improvements often address pedestrian and bicyclist safety. Many of you here remember the Midtown Area Transportation Plan that you actually approved in October of 2020. That actually looked at improving mobility for all modes along the corridor. In terms of implementation, there's actually an upcoming resurfacing projects on Thomasville Road from Monroe Street all the way up to 5 points. And associated with that resurfacing project, we are actually looking through coordination with FDOT District 3 and the Blueprint IA to actually implement some of those recommendations from that study. Iron Bridge Road feasibility study in Gadsden County. That's about to get kicked off by one of the CRTPA's general planning consultants coming up within the next month or two, and that's looking to actually provide connectivity to the CRTPA region's multi-use trails throughout the region here. Transportation Alternatives Program. Now, the CRTPA actually coordinates this federally funded program, and what it does is actually look to provide funds to alternative or non-motorized projects within the CRTPA region. Last year in 2021 on Bluntstown Street, a City of Tallahassee project that they submitted for TA funding actually was completed. In addition to TA funds or transportation alternative funds, some CRTPA urban attributable or SU funds were placed on that project, as well as City of Tallahassee funds. Currently, the project that's getting funded through TA funds within the CRTPA region to be constructed in fiscal year 24-25 is the extension of US 90 sidewalks on the east side of Quincy, which is a much-needed project. Expanding the regional trails network. Right now, there's a project within Wakulla County to actually extend the coastal trail eastwards to make a connectivity to the St. Mark's Refuge, and that's planned to be constructed in fiscal year 24. Community Traffic Safety Teams, another acronym for you, CTSTs. Now, every county within Florida has a CTST, and what those are groups of individuals, traffic safety experts, and they come together to advocate safety and address and bring forward some safety concerns along corridors within each of those counties. With regards to the Leon County CTST, actually CRTPA staff, Ms. Susan Lex actually staffs that CTST. High visibility enforcement. Right now in Leon County, there's a high visibility enforcement initiative underway, and that's being conducted by the City of Tallahassee Police Department along some identified high crash corridors that you can see there. And that program is actually associated with an FDOT high visibility enforcement program that looks at focusing on the 25 counties within the state with the highest serious injury and fatal injuries to pedestrian cyclists. And sadly, unfortunately, Leon County is in the top 20, is 23 amongst those top 25. CRTPA Congestion Management Plan. Now, that's something that came to you all and was adopted in 2018. And a large focus of that plan is actually safety and the identification of safety projects. That's something we are about to kick off again through one of the CRTPA's GPCs or general planning consultants within the next month or two. Now, in terms of CRTPA historical trends, if we look at the FDOT analysis that we get from 26 to 2020, serious injuries and fatalities. Serious injuries in blue there on that blue line you can see have actually gone down within the CRTPA region. With regards to fatalities, you can see that blue line. Those haven't changed too much. They go up and they go down. With regards to bicycle and pedestrian combined serious injuries and fatalities, you can see up until the year 2020, those go up, those go down. However, one thing we can do, you may recall in June of last year, Jack Kostrua actually did an in-depth analysis on looking at safety within the CRTPA region. And what we can do is use actually some Signal 4 analytics data to get more detailed information on these safety concerns and these safety issues. So we have actually done that to this year, and we've updated it to the year 2021, even though the FDOT data only goes to 2020. And we've actually broken those out by mode and incident for pedestrians and bicyclists. And what we actually find is that for the most recent 5-year period, 2016 to 2021, bike fatalities in 2021 actually increased. Many of you are aware there were 4 last year, 2 of which in Wakulla County, 2 of which in Leon County. In terms of pedestrian fatalities, those actually decreased a little bit. That's there in blue. In terms of pedestrian serious injuries and bicycle serious injuries, those have both increased slightly over that 5-year period. Now, today, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, what we are to do is to adopt the 5 safety targets for this year for 2022, something we annually are required to do. Every NPO within the United States has to do this, and we do this. In terms of the history with regards to how we have addressed these targets, historically, up until last year, the CRTPA has adopted the targets based upon the most recent 5-year data from FDOT for each of the 5 measures. Last year, however, you may recall there was significant discussion during this agenda item, and ultimately that resulted in the adoption of safety targets that reflected the lower number for each target between what we had adopted the previous year in 2020 and what we were proposing for 2021. So now, getting to what we're doing here today for 2022, we are proposing and recommending that for 2022, we actually use those 2021 targets as a baseline with the addition of a 5% annual reduction for each target, so we can see how we're doing. Additionally, we are recommending that the CRTPA adopt a long-term safety goal of 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries for the CRTPA region, bringing us somewhat in line with the FDOT initiative. Now, that's kind of a mouthful, but what it actually looks like on the top of the screen there, you can see those are the 5 targets that we are proposing to adopt for 2022. How we got there again, if you look at the bottom screen there, you can see the column there for for green in 2021. That's what was adopted. The column to the right, the blue column, is actually what we're proposing, and that is a reflection of reducing what we adopted last year in 2021 by 5%. Again, with the intention, with the approval of this item, that we would be coming back to you next year, reducing those a further 5% for each of the targets. And that said, end of my presentation, and I can certainly take any questions.
Thank you very much, Greg. Just my memory of our conversation last time around, I just really appreciate how seriously you all always take these things seriously. I shouldn't have, don't want to imply anything other than that, but I can really hear a reflection on some of the concerns the board brought up about those targets, about the data, everything else. So thank you very much. For the board, any comments or thoughts about the presentation?
Very good.
Madam Chair, if I
Greg?
could, I just want to point out, one of the things Greg mentioned in his presentation were the community traffic safety team. And I wanted to commend Suzanne Lex. She actually organized helmet fitting. Believe it or not, there is a science to fitting folks with helmets. And I believe she got 15 participants from several different state agencies, and including a couple that we were kind of surprised. Suzanne, was it the Department of Agriculture, or who was it?
I'm sorry, sir?
Who was it? The Department of Agriculture, or somebody sent somebody?
The Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, University of Florida from their sustainability department. We had 2 citizen cyclists come from, I think, from Capital City Cyclists. And then the planning department from the city, City of Tallahassee as well.
We actually had really good turnout for an event like that, which had not been done in a long time, so we were happy to see that kind of turnout for it.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any other comments right now. I will piggyback on that. I was going to I bring it up because I didn't think we had seen a helmet program or, kind of training for that in the past. In the future, once we get back to doing our larger events, we've had a safety fair with Leon County EMS that looks at car seat installation and some other things. Oftentimes it's been at Governor Square Mall, I believe. So we could look to partner with other organizations. I think they would be really excited to bring that piece in to all of the other safety information that they're providing at those events. And the only other comment I had is I am glad you referenced coordinating with Blueprint on Midtown and Pensacola Street. There is a Blueprint project. It's pretty far out there, but that will, oh, I see Autumn. It's so dark back there behind you. I didn't see it before. So I'm sure we're coordinating on any of those projects that may relate to future Blueprint projects, even if the timing might not line up perfectly. Is that right? Okay. Thank you. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, do we have a motion? Commissioner Richardson, I paused that time.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Sir, I appreciate that.
Second.
I'll give it to Commissioner Matlow. We have a motion and a second. This is not a roll call, correct? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we are moving right along here. So we are on FDOT update. Right, good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to be here. Director Slay had requested I give y'all a general update on the Capitol Circle widening project, specifically the segment from Orange Avenue to Spring Hill Road. This project has had significant right-of-way acquisition issues, so we've had to push that letting date back a couple of times. It currently sits at a June 2022 letting. We did anticipate that having to be moved back from the March date. We just were not able to hold that date. But we're, based on our right-of-way acquisition schedule, we will be able to maintain that June letting date. So again, June 2022 will be the letting date. You should see work out there around September of this year.
Long time coming on that project. I'm
Yes,
sure
ma'am.
y'all will be happy to see it under construction as well as we will. Any questions on that or any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just curious, what were the right-of-way issues?
The initial right-of-way issues did relate to being able to get court dates. With the impact of COVID, we struggle across the district getting our court dates in a efficient manner. So no issues in the actual acquiring of the right-of-way. It was more just getting before the judge.
Logistical issues. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking the question. Good to know that, and the court dates have been challenged for everyone. Any other questions? Easy day for you, sir. All right. Mr. Slay.
Yes, ma'am, I've got a few things here. First of all, back at the November meeting, I believe, you all requested that the department conduct a traffic signal warrant at the Tallahassee Nurseries entrance. There's a cross street there, but I'm drawing a blank on it. I received word back from DOT last week that the intersection did not warrant a traffic study, or excuse me, a traffic light. So I've actually asked for a copy of this study. I have not got it yet, but they did say that their analysis concluded that they could not justify putting a traffic light there.
What about a roundabout?
On Thomasville Road in front of that, yeah.
That'll slow them down.
It would slow them down.
It slows something down,
Brilliant idea, right?
but that's not the goal. Just slow it down in the middle of Thomasville Road.
I don't understand.
Mr. Slay, when that report does come to you, would you mind sharing that with us as well? Sure. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
A couple more, I'm sorry.
Greg, just, of course, this wasn't ready in time for our last meeting, but particularly for the folks at Tallahassee Nurseries, I think they would appreciate hearing the results of that.
Yes, ma'am.
That was part of
Yeah,
their
we can follow
request.
back up.
And I could wait to see the report, but I assume not warranting it, that typically is with the traffic volumes, the speed, or the proximity to other lights, or do we just need to wait to see the report?
It's a little bit of everything. There are, I think, 16 different what are called warrants. One of them can be traffic volume, one can be turning movements, types of crashes is one, like a lot of rear-end crashes.
Line of sight?
16 in total. I'm sorry?
Line of sight?
Line of sight's typically not
Really?
a warrant for, like I said, there are very specific warrants that an intersection has to meet at least one of those warrants to justify a traffic light. But I wanted to see the report.
Yeah.
To see how they got to those conclusions. But I at least wanted to mention the fact that we did get word back that it was not.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot with
that's
that,
okay.
but we'll look forward to seeing the report. Thank you.
Just a couple of other items. We're having two in-person open house meetings for the Monticello Trail from Tallahassee to Monticello.
US 90 Trail.
US 90 Trail, sorry. First one's tomorrow night at the courthouse annex in Jefferson County from 5 o'clock to 7:30. The second one is on March 1st at the East Branch of the Tallahassee Library, or Leon County Library, from 5 to 7:30. You're all welcome to come out.
And those comments can be made virtually also, as well as, is there a Zoom portion during that time?
There's not, we talked about that, but we couldn't pull that off effectively, so, but there's still an open period, but this is much more of a presentation of information prior to wrapping up the feasibility study that I believe we're planning to bringing you all in April or May at this point.
Commissioner Barfield, do you see any need for a virtual meeting to collect other comments? Yeah, I thought we'd done a lot of work on this, so.
I've been-
Yeah, we've already done 2 virtual Q&A
Yes,
sessions.
I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't what you were
You're looking out for
asking.
me.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, and I will say, we actually, it's something we looked at. DOT has actually done this with some of their public meetings. It's kind of hard because the way DOT has done it is they've got a presentation off to the side running, and folks can watch it, but there's really no interaction from the people physically in the room, so we didn't think that was an effective way. But again, we've done the 2 virtual Q&A sessions that were well attended. I think we probably had 25, 30 people total on both of those. That's, for a virtual meeting, that's pretty good. The only other thing I had a meeting last week with Commissioner Richardson and DOT staff on the NIMS Middle School pedestrian crossings, and the department has made some progress on that. In speaking with Mike Lewis, the district safety engineer, there's 2 programs that are going to try to get funding for that project. As it stands now, their initial estimate on it is about $750,000, but it would involve putting 2 overhead pedestrian signals at the 2, basically more or less at the end, each end of the campus. So that's moving forward. I believe their submission dates for that was late March. So hopefully by early summer, we should have some idea of where that's going to go.
Madam Chair?
Of course, Commissioner.
I told Greg, I'm the kind of man that I'm not too proud to apologize if I was wrong. And if you all recall, my language at the end of the last meeting was pretty strong because I felt like the project was not moving along, and there had been significant progress made, which I learned at the meeting that Greg and Mike and I had the other day. And so I apologize to them, and I apologize to this board for that strong language that I used. And we're looking forward to getting that done. And we are moving forward, so
Well done.
Yes.
thank you.
Commissioner Richardson, I think we all know how hard you've worked. We all support that you are hyper-focused on those crossings, and it's understandable. You're the schools. I mean, it's really
Exactly.
needed. But I think we all want to work well together, and it's important to acknowledge we don't know everything that's in progress once we get to these meetings. So appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that's all I have.
All right. We have some additional information there, future meeting dates, committee actions. So moving right on to any other items from board members. Commissioner Barfield, first up.
Thank you. To my counterparts, Wakulla and Gadsden County, we've been working with the University of Florida on their technical assistance team with the Florida Department of Transportation. And this came out of the blue to me, and it's very interesting, this whole process that they are doing. They have contracted with the University of Florida to help small rural counties on some technical assistance on their problem children of roadways, sidewalks, and things like this. So what's happening is the CTST takes in that information, brings it over here, or I take it up to the DOT. But what they're doing is they're gathering this information, and when the DOT comes to us and say, we need some, we want to know what your problems are, this is a data gathering place where this is happening right now. Am I saying this right? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
No, ma'am, I'm actually not.
Oh, my goodness,
Learning about
anybody
this
here
on the fly.
familiar with what I'm talking about? Well, Bryant, Paul, are you? This is going to be
Breaking news.
very, very good for the small counties. It really, really is, because they are working with the students in their transportation technical assistance program, and they are gathering all that information. They're working with all of our partners that are part of the community traffic safety team. We are feeding them information of where we feel like we are having problems on our roadways, whether that is an intersection, a sidewalk, lighting, anything that team puts together, they take it to the University of Florida, their technical assistance, and then it is put up to the DOT in a database. And if you give me like 1 second, maybe I could get that information. So the guy's name is Scott Tisson, and he's a lead instructor for the University of Florida Tech Transfer 2C Center. And I can forward you that information, let you know, and you too, Mr. Polk. I believe it's only for constrained counties, small counties. So I thought it was a nice tool for us small counties to feed into the DOT about it, and so I'll be happy to share that with you.
This is the first time hearing of it.
Yeah, you can look into it. We've already had a couple of meetings. Our chair of our CTST is feeding the information to them. So it really is excellent. And I'm very pleased that the DOT has partnered with the University of Florida, and they are working with this, and you're going to find that's a good tool for you in Wakulla and also in Gadsden County. For that.
Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Barfield. If you will send it to Greg, I have no doubt that Chris Rito would also like to know about this.
Absolutely.
You're
Yes.
working up for other counties in our region, and sometimes these programs start with kind of a pilot county, or they don't have the capacity to work with a lot of counties at once. But if they could work with more or have, other projects in the future,
Right.
that could be really significant. So if you'll get that out to everyone.
Yeah, I think our secretary had something to do with it.
Yes.
Picking Jefferson County.
No doubt.
Yeah. Another thing, Mr. Bryant Polk, we're so appreciative of the lighting that's at US 27 and State Road 59, and that has been a hot spot for folks speeding through. It's very dark there, very rural. However, I've had a family that has reached out to me about the brightness of the lights or the direction of the lights. Could you connect me with your lighting person or give me some direction on that? I don't know if there's anything that we can do for these people. Their house is in the woods, and she says it's extremely bright. Now, I haven't been to their house at midnight to experience it yet, but however, I do want to voice their concern.
Okay, I'll touch base with somebody in our design office and have them reach out to you.
That would be excellent. And I do want to say that I reached out to Mr. Polk about e-bikes on our Florida greenways and trails and got some information about that, because this is going to be a hot topic coming up. I ride an e-bike now. My brother calls it a cheater bike. I don't care what you call it. It is the best thing ever. And there are, as I learned, local municipalities make their own rules for e-bikes and whether they're allowed on their trail or not. I don't know what Tallahassee and Leon County allows or not. Greenways and trails, they don't have anything, they allow them. But I want us to start thinking about the e-bikes and how those are proliferating our communities, and they're not evil like a lot of people think. And perhaps what I could do is make a presentation, have somebody make a presentation on an e-bike and kind of give you the lowdown on it and exactly how, not how they work, but how we ride those. And you'll be very surprised.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, because they are coming on. They really, really are. I think our executive director might get one soon. I'm done.
I envision a riding board meeting, right?
I would love that.
Well, I appreciate that too, and this is an issue that some brought up about Thomasville Road Trail, the multi-use, but it is good to think about it for our shared trails regionally, the state trails, others, so thanks. Commissioner Minor?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to, first of all, congratulate Commissioner Barfield for winning the meeting today, bringing up something about this that can benefit the small counties, which no one else has heard about, which is important, though. So congratulations. That's very helpful. And then also your other point about the e-bikes, I think that's really pertinent to all of us in each of our counties. With the Thomasville Road multi-use path, we've had a lot of discussion with neighbors that are concerned about that. And so I am fully in support of bringing more information to the CRTPA to talk about that. This is a trend that's coming. And I, for one, I'd like to have us be as prepared as we can be, understanding the pros and cons and making sure, taking a look at what other policies have been adopted by other communities throughout the state and perhaps the country to figure out what we can do to make our greenways and our paths as safe as possible. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Commissioner Minor. And perhaps Chris Rito, he's also, he's a much better cyclist than I am, and perhaps we can work together on reaching out to the local bike shop. There's David's World Cycling that's all over the state of Florida that has a lot of experience. I don't want to exclude any bike shop, but perhaps we
others
can
too.
ask them to come in and give us a presentation on what they're experiencing all throughout the state of Florida.
I would second that motion, Madam Chair, if that's a motion. Commissioner Barfield?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. So to have a presentation at some point on e-bikes, on what policies, and forgive me, the two of you, if I didn't capture this correctly, what policies other cities or counties might have adopted, and just looking at this issue, and you were suggesting even with some private sector information,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And also the U.S., yeah, any kind of programs like that?
Yes.
Correct?
Bring it to the board in a
Okay, sure.
couple of meetings.
Good. Okay, so
I think,
Chris, yes, sorry.
I was just going to say, I also sit on the Florida Greenways and Trails Council, and there'd be some good speakers that could come potentially and talk about e-bikes that I can tap into and see, you know, who's available and who would be the best qualified to give us a presentation.
Told you.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's a
perfect.
great suggestion, too. Thank you, Chris. Okay, on this subject, Commissioner Matlow, or, okay. So we have a motion to bring back an item, exploring this at some point, and you've got some resources, Greg. You've got a second from Commissioner Minor. Any other comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
I'm done.
thank you. All right. Commissioner Matlow.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. I had an opportunity to ride an e-bike through downtown Tallahassee, and I've never enjoyed riding a bike through the hills of downtown Tallahassee, so I understand. Secondly, I was waking my son up for school this morning, and he looked at me foolishly and said, "It's President's Day." So I just wanted to say Happy President's Day, everybody.
Everybody's off work.
The dad go back to bed.
The kids will never forget when they have a day off school. We can trust that. Commissioner Williams-Cox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to keep this on the forefront of our minds. Rails. I know we had a presentation a few months back. Seems like a long time ago. Like to stay up to speed on where we are and what's going on in that arena. I have a citizen who prompts me often for updates, and I want to be able to update him, but I think I may have connected him with the gentleman who did the rails presentation.
Yes, ma'am, Ricky Fitzgerald.
But I still would like to know where we are, because I believe we got some infrastructure dollars somewhere in the state of Florida, hopefully somewhere here in this county. And I'm hoping that some of those dollars might be used to bring us closer to reestablishing our rail services. So if in the future we can get an update on where we are with that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am, I can follow back up with Ricky. I honestly have not had any conversations with him since he did the presentation in October. In regards to the federal bill, and I think I forgot to mention that, everybody's still trying to figure out exactly what's in it. One of the things that was a little bit interesting this time is typically in the past, when a new federal bill came online, it actually goes into effect then. One of the nuances this time, if you recall, and there was some news information in this in the last few days, Congress had passed a continuing resolution that expired last week. They've since subsequently approved another one through March 11th. Those were all funded at the 2021 fiscal year levels, so that does not include the additional monies that were authorized as part of the new legislation. It does not appropriate those dollars, which there's two steps to that. Congress authorizes, let's just say $100 for a program as part of that particular bill. They still have to come back and appropriate that $100 somewhere along the line, and they have not done that yet, is my understanding, with the new federal bill. But going back to your original question, I'll have a talk with Ricky just to see where they're at. I know they were still doing some of that rail study. They have not completed that to my knowledge, but I will follow up with him and kind of get an update as to where they're at with it.
As a follow-up question, in regards to how the money actually gets here, is there something that the governor has to agree to accept, or does it come anyway? Because we know we have a history of not accepting gifts.
Yes, ma'am. The short answer is I don't know. I know the last time on the high-speed money, it was specifically designated for projects in Florida, I believe in California, and at the time, you're correct, Governor Scott turned that money back. I don't think there are any specific high-speed projects that were part of this bill. I think there's money there for high-speed rail, but not specific to states or jurisdictions like it was in the instance you're referring to.
Thank you.
Good. Glad you brought up rail again. I emailed Mr. Fitzgerald after the presentation because since the state hasn't joined the consortium with our neighboring states for the Gulf Coast Rail Line, if you remember, I brought up the issue of whether or not the planning councils along North Florida might be able to work together to at least get a North Florida representation. I didn't know if that was possible, but he sounded interesting. So I had emailed him, and he said we'd get back after the first of the year. We haven't talked about that again. Chris, you've not heard from Mr. Fitzgerald on the Planning Council side, correct?
We reached out to him to try to have him present at our January board meeting. He had a conflict, so that's a reminder to me to see if I can get him to come to our March meeting. Thank you.
Okay. And obviously, Commissioner Williams-Cox, those meetings are open. We've been going back and forth on virtual. Since that's more than 5 counties, we're allowed to do that. But if we get that presentation, you're more than welcome, of course, to join us if you want to hear that and talk about the need for North Florida to become involved with the advocacy if our whole state won't join.
Okay, you're still the chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when that occurs, could you all invite me?
Yes, Chris, will you?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and you could even let Greg know if we want to let the full board know if anyone, that might be good, just to link you two up so that we can let everyone know that the opportunity is there, and then you can join us. Even if we're in person, we will have a virtual option for those meetings.
Correct. We're going to be hybrid from now on.
It might be a little circular way around this, but doing double duty this year, I'm actually chairing the Florida Regional Planning Councils Association Board as well. So I can bring this, and Chris it works closely with the directors of all 10 planning councils. So we can bring this to our other planning councils across North Florida. But we would need to talk to Mr. Fitzgerald first. So you teed that up, though, by asking for the presentation. So thank you. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Not seeing any other cards? Okay. I'm not going to bang the gavel, Commissioner Matlow, but we will stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.